PNGTV Live News at 7 p.m. I'm Quintina Naime. An immediate state of emergency has been declared for Highlands earthquake disaster areas in Hela, Southern Highlands, Western and Enga provinces. Prime Minister Peter O'Neill announced this afternoon. The National Executive Council has further approved 450 million kina for relief operations and to restore services, as well as the formation of an emergency disaster restoration team and the establishment of a restoration authority. In a press statement, Prime Minister O'Neill says this is an unprecedented disaster in the Highlands region and the appropriate response is underway by the national government. He says a state of emergency has been declared to expedite the restoration of essential public services, including healthcare services, schools, road access, airports, power and communications facilities. O'Neill adds 450 million kina has been approved for disaster relief, services restoration and the rebuilding of infrastructure. An emergency disaster restoration team led by Dr. William Hamlin as the emergency controller will now manage and coordinate all restoration activities working with provincial authorities. Cabinet has further approved the establishment of a restoration authority that will manage long-term reconstruction efforts over a 4-year period to fully restore normalcy. An emergency session of Parliament will be convened for the presentation of legislation that will establish the Restoration Authority, with the date of the session to be announced by the Speaker of Parliament. The Prime Minister says relief efforts are already underway and further assessments provided to focus operations to areas in need. Members of the PNG Defence Force and disaster officers were dispatched to the affected areas immediately following the earthquake and are working with provincial authorities. Meantime, National Disaster Centre Acting Director Martin Mose visited the affected areas in Tari yesterday. It's been 4 days since the 7.5 magnitude earthquake struck Southern Highlands and Hela province, but still the people on ground say they are still waiting for aid assistance to reach them. Martin Mose tells PNGTV Live the impact caused by the massive earthquake is huge.
It was quite evident from the scene, or the side that we were able to see, that there was evidence of destruction everywhere to structure, that's infrastructure, as well as to structural damage, that's building, and of course to cemetery, graves and all those other things that you can see. Trees as well as actually fallen, uprooted and fallen, so road cracks. And
Moses says the country should not take the disaster lightly because the country is likely to expect more earthquakes to happen.
It's not directly related to volcano eruption. It is a tectonic related situation. So being the Papua New Guinea sitting on that ring of fire, and of course on that plate, we can expect something of that nature. But as they have clearly explained, those series of aftershock is a normal process that will have to happen to take course to help normalize the situation.
The people are living in fear as this is their first time to experience such a big earthquake.
We are encouraging that there should be a lot of awareness conducted out there so that it put people at ease. They should not be really frightened, but they should take extra precaution and care when roaming around in case there's some structure that might give way, which have actually being weakened by the earthquake on Monday morning. So
Moses says an assessment team will submit a report to the government on how much it will cost to carry out relief assistance.
Works department, technical officers who are actually doing that, they will give us a estimate cost of damage, how much it's going to cost, in order to do a quick emergency repair so that it can allow access for roads, for vehicles to move and allow goods and services to move while waiting for permanent reconstruction to be carried out on our road links.
He says the death toll is yet to be confirmed, with a lot to be done in terms of recovery. Quintina Naime, PNGTV Live. The Governor-General of Papua New Guinea, His Excellency Sir Bob Dadai, has expressed sadness at the loss of lives and communities affected by the earthquake. He says the loss of lives of the devastation of communities and properties in the wake of the earthquake make it the worst such disaster to hit this part of the country in recent years. He says it is devastating to note that a lot of people lost their lives and many communities, businesses and government services have been destroyed. His Excellency Sir Bob Dadai acknowledges the efforts of authorities on ground who are now doing all they can to reach the affected communities despite being faced with many difficulties. He appreciates the efforts of individuals and organizations who are working tirelessly to bring relief supplies to those affected. A construction worker has died at the refugee camp site at Ward 1 in Lorengau town after the crane he was operating overturned. The deceased was trapped inside the cabin when the crane capsized while lifting a heavy-duty power generator. Doctors at the Manus Provincial Hospital confirmed he died from loss of blood due to a severe wound he sustained on his left leg during the incident. Manus Provincial Police Commander Chief Inspector David Yapu reveals the deceased from Morabe Province was employed by NKW Constructions as an operator. He says the body is now at the morgue for autopsy and police are investigating the incident. The incident occurred midday yesterday at the West Lorengau refugees campsite. PPC Yapu says the situation at the refugee campsite is calm as workers continue to work on site. The Department of Treasury strongly condemns the irresponsible and illegal act of the person or persons who have released an internal memorandum. This is in relation to the results of the government's weekly treasury bills and inscribed stock fund raising auction. Kaligantanda reports.
Secretary for Treasury Diary Velas says the government auction is just one way used to raise funds and not the only way. He says, and I quote, "We go to auction and sometimes the market, being the commercial banks and the super funds, subscribe to amounts that we are hoping for and even more, and other times they do not. But when we do not raise as much as we wanted from this mechanism, we activate our other mechanisms which we have done already." Unquote. The Public Debt Committee comprises of Treasury, Finance, Planning and the Bank of Papua New Guinea. It meets weekly to oversee the government's auction program. The Secretary says the leaking of the email was a cowardly act and whoever the perpetrators are will be identified and prosecuted. In the meantime, salaries for the public service have already been paid after a day of delay. Vele further stresses that those who choose to spread this type of misinformation completely out of context are just unnecessarily inciting restlessness in the community. The Secretary said the last thing hardworking public servants need is misleading and false information about their livelihoods. Kaligantanda, PNGTV Live.
You're watching PNGTV Live News. More after this break. Welcome back. You're watching PNGTV Live News. Competition plays a key role in achieving economic growth for individual economies and the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation or APEC region, with the aim to reduce monopolies in Papua New Guinea, especially in the private sector. The Independent Consumer and Competition Commission or ICCC is hosting a two-day workshop as part of APEC's first senior officials meeting underway in Port Moresby.
And it's lovely seeing you this morning.
When welcoming the delegates from the APEC countries, ICCC Commissioner and Chief Executive Officer Paulus Ain says monopolies are the weakness in the provision of the legislation. Ain reveals this has prevented ICCC to successfully implement competition policy, and the workshop will help address some of these issues.
The work that competition agencies do in taking enforcement actions against anti-competitive conduct or to advocate strongly against anti-competitive policies play a key role in reducing barriers to entry and to encourage investments in key sectors of the economy.
The two-day information sharing best practices workshop allows for participants and experts to consider the types of merger control regimes. As the competition watchdog of Papua New Guinea, Ain says ICCC has had the provision in its legislation that allow for non-voluntary provision.
And that provision has allowed many of the companies are now becoming private monopolies in the likes of some of these countries companies that we experience in this country. So we've chosen this topic to address this bit of legislation or provision in the ICCC Act, so that we have a provision where it addresses this concern about non-voluntary provisions.
PNG has begun the process to amend the ICCC Act to change the current merger control regime mandatory, and says to have that provision, the country must gain experience from international experts and those countries that have similar provisions to share through this workshop to help Papua New Guinea going forward.
We're looking forward to having a provision that will make mergers and acquisitions in this country mandatory. And we're looking forward to some of these experiences shared by these economies and experts that we have brought in, as far as US, Korea, Russia. So there's a good of experienced people in this room now. They'll be sharing their experiences and share their knowledge with us, so that this will help our economy going forward.
Recommendations from the workshop will be put forward to the Economic Committee to present to the SOM leaders, and that will be presented to the Leaders Summit in November. Quintina, Naime, PNGTV Live. Provincial and district administrators have again been urged to prioritize and use public funds on projects that are achievable. Chief Secretary to Government Isaac Lupari says 2018 will be another challenging year for service delivery, so provinces must be able to effectively use the money allocated to them. Gregory Avira reports.
2017 has been a challenging year for Papua New Guinea. Despite the challenges faced, the government continues to do its best in ensuring services are provided throughout the country. Chief Secretary to Government Isaac Lupari says service delivery continues to be a priority, which the government highly depends on the public service to deliver.
We must bring forward that same resilience in 2018. It's a difficult year for us. If you look at the budget, it's going to be difficult implementing that budget.
This week saw a special provincial and local level service monitoring authority meeting.
In its efforts to help fight cancer in the country, Laga Industries pledged their support towards women's cancer awareness. Throughout the months of September, October and November, Laga Industries will be donating part of their profit from sales of Tropical Oasis purified water to the foundation. Florida Gulaseni reports.
Laga Industries General Manager Gerard O'Brien and PNG Cancer Foundation CEO Daddy Toka Jr. signed off on a one-year partnership. O'Brien says being associated with the fight against women's cancer, which is a big drain in the country's economy, the partnership is for a worthy cause.
The work is from the sale of every bottle of Tropical Oasis that has the pink ribbon on it during the months of September, October and November. We will donate a portion of those sales to the Cancer Foundation. It will, given the volume of bottles we sell of Tropical Oasis water, it will add up to quite a substantial sum of money.
Steamships General Manager for Corporate Affairs David Toa says Steamships has been involved in community initiatives and they are proud of their engagements to help women in the country.
Our businesses, Laga Industries, combined with a well-known charity such as the PNG Cancer Foundation to promote good health around our women folk. So, from a Steamships point of view, this is perfect.
PNG Cancer Foundation CEO Daddy Toka Jr. thanked Laga Industries for joining the fight against cancer and says the initiative will go a long way in creating awareness through the use of world-recognized pink ribbon symbols, generating much-needed funds to continue education and awareness programs.
Being women's cancer, there's a lot of interest around the month of October, and we're very, very fortunate to have this a new partnership, that'll of course create more awareness for us through the sale of the products.
PNG Cancer Foundation will be using the funds raised to continue to conduct cancer education and awareness programs focused on cervical, breast and mouth cancer at various locations throughout the country in 2019. Florida Gulaseni, PNGTV Live.
The Talasia district has released a 5-year development plan for the area. The member for Talasia in West New Britain province made this known when presenting the respective district's budget of 9.6 million kina to the Department of Treasury and members of his district development authority. Kaligan Tanda reports.
Rural local level government is Nakanai rural local level government.
Member for Talasia, Francis Maneke, presented his district budget of 9,661,478 kina to officers from the Department of Treasury at the Treasury Building today in Port Moresby. The budget encompasses the 7 local level governments that cater for over 200,000 people in the largest district in the West New Britain province. Manake has some recommendations for the national government regarding the district budgets.
With the cost of goods and services are rising, and cost in delivering these services to the people in our remote areas are also rising, the national government definitely must increase the level of grants to the local level government throughout the country to help counteract the costs.
He also wants the government to seriously consider allocating district administrative grants to local level governments, just like what it was doing with the Ward Services Improvement Program grants. He said the LLGs had been missing out on these grants, despite it being channeled through the provincial grants. Treasury officers commended Manake and members of the Talasia District Development Authority when they also presented their 5-year development plan.
Having a good plan is foundation for you to, if you get your grants through the national government, you are able, where to put the grants and your inputs and then your output. You see your district and LLGs into the future 20 years time. So, it's always good to have a vision.
Talasia District Administrator Robert Dow, in acknowledging the lateness of their submission, hoped to get their budget as soon as possible, considering a significant portion of this year had already lapsed.
Now we are approaching March, which is about first quarter of this year is gone. So we have only 3 quarters and maybe 2 quarters for us to implement. Narpla quota and tambla wakimnupla budget kene. So we have a very limited time.
Manake stresses that Talasia is an economic district driven by palm oil, as is in line with the national government's Alatau Accord. He further commended the government for including some high-impact projects in Talasia and West New Britain, such as the East-West New Britain Highway, and the backing of road infrastructure to support the oil palm industry to boost the economy for the country. Kalagantanda, PNGTV Live.
The 2018 Miss Pacific Islands pageant PNG was launched at the Royal Papua Yacht Club yesterday. This marks another year on its search to find queens to represent Papua New Guinea in this year's pageant. This year, the fund is assisting a total of 54 young women with a budget of 160,000 kina. Florida Gulaseni reports.
The Miss Pacific Island pageant Papua New Guinea, a fully not-for-profit organization, offers young women from around the country to act as cultural ambassadors for their country. Chairlady of the Miss Pacific Island PNG, Molly O'Rourke, says in Papua New Guinea, the organization has 4 main foundations, which include the Scholarship Fund. This fund is focused at supporting selected female students in tertiary institutions.
In 2017, we are proud to say that the fund had assisted 42 young women with a budget of 85,000 kina. This year, the fund is assisting 54 young women with a budget of 160,000.
Among all successful recipients for this year nationwide, 14 girls out of the 54 are from Sacred Heart Teachers College. Sacred Heart Teachers College Scholarship and Finance Officer Harriet Wasina says most of the successful recipients from their institutions come from rural areas and were school leavers.
Most of our students are coming from the village. They're grade 12 leavers and the parents are back at home. So when they apply for them to be in this college, since it's agency managed, so we have students coming from all provinces, especially southern region.
Miss Pacific Island PNG 2017, Neawali Twain says the pageant is no ordinary pageant. It is a pageant with a purpose, gracing young women each year, giving them the opportunity to grow in virtue and value.
Women empowerment is at the heart of this pageant and is seen through the contestants' participation, designers show at the project runway, and the scholarships provided to young women each year. It is our hope this year that we shall be joined once more by the sponsors, contestants, and supporters to continue this journey of empowerment.
The Miss Pacific Island PNG Crowning Ball for this year is scheduled on the 28th of October, and a Papua New Guinea contestant will be crowned to represent Papua New Guinea in the 2018 Miss Pacific Island pageant in Tonga. Florida Gulaseni, PNGTV Live.
You're watching PNGTV Live News. More after this break. Welcome back. You're watching PNGTV Live News. To sporting news, Papua New Guinea Amateur Boxing Union's fight last night in Port Moresby was deemed a success, with organizers expecting the same for the next two scheduled fight nights. Tournament director Dick Leary says the winners from last night will be matched against other boxers in next week's event for a possible spot in the team that will be taking on boxers from Fiji and New South Wales in the Kokoda Cup Challenge on March 10th. Gregory Avira reports.
Boxers from associations in Mekeo, Kairiku, Erie and NCDC were part of the first fight night. Taking the ring were past and present medalists from PNG Games, national champions and even Pacific champions. The 10-bout event featured 3 female fights and 7 male fights. Tournament director Dick Larry says the fights got off to a good start and will form the foundation for selecting the side that will take part in the Kokoda Cup Challenge against Fiji and New South Wales.
Only four boxers only going to Commonwealth Games, and there's 1 girl and 3 boys only, which they are now training in the Philippines. From this tournament here, we're going to select the other boxers in those weight divisions that are not going to Commonwealth Games, and they will participate in a big major event on Saturday, 10th of March. And that is for us to select the best to challenge Australia and Fiji.
Despite the heavy downpour, organizers were happy with the turnout. We spoke to a few of the spectators on the night.
We are looking through our sports here in boxing is very interesting in Papua New Guinea, through our countries.
The fight is okay, fight is good. I'm a boxer myself too, so every time, like when it comes to boxing, it's something that we always are supportive about. It's very positive to see young people take boxing and take it head on. Yeah.
The next interclub fight night is scheduled for March 7 and will be a lead-up for the main event on March 10th. Gregoria Vera, PNG TV Live.
Papua New Guinea athletics squad will be sending 11 athletes to the Commonwealth Games on the Gold Coast, Australia in April, including 3 female and 8 male athletes. Triple gold medalists from the 2015 Pacific Games, Rayleigh Caputin, will contest the long jump and triple jump, whereas young Afure Ada will run the 100 meters and 200 meters sprints. Andrin Monagi will run the 100 meters hurdles event, in which she has recently shown good form, improving her personal best to 13.89 seconds. Nesmi Lee Marai, who won the 100 meters and 200 meters at the recent Pacific Mini Games, will also run these 2 events along with his teammate Wesley Logorava. National 200 meters record holder Theo Panyao will run only the 200 meters, and young Ephraim Lekin will contest the 400 meters and 400 meters hurdles. 38-year-old Moen Boino will be competing in his 5th Commonwealth Games and will also run the 400 meters hurdles, an event in which he has been unbeaten in Pacific Games competition since 1999. Para-athlete Samuel Nason has been granted a university place and will run the 100 meters in the T47 class. PNG's 2 field event athletes in the men's division are Peniel Richard and Debono Paraka. Head coach for the team is Philip Newton, who steered the PNG jumps and combined event athletes to 5 gold, 4 silver and 5 bronze medals at the 2015 Pacific Games. The Hebel PNG Barramundis succumbed to a 7-wicket loss to Scotland on Tuesday in their first warm-up match of the Cricket World Cup qualifier in Zimbabwe. Gregory Avira reports.
The decision proved successful as PNG lost openers Tony Ura, 11 runs, and Vani Vagimorea, 12 runs to Safian Sharif and Mark Watt, respectively. PNG were looking in trouble after 10 overs as they were reduced to 36 for 2 wickets. Despite the early fall of wickets, the Barramundis put up a spirited fight, with their innings coming to an end all out for 196. Scottish captain Kyle Kotza, who has been in red-hot form of late, walked out with keeper Matthew Cross, and they did not wait to make their intentions known, taking the attack to the Barramundis opening bowlers. Scotland won the match quite easily in the end, 4 for 197 with 7 wickets to spare. The match was in many ways a mirror to the Ebo PNG Barramundis World Cricket League Championship campaign, which also began in defeat but ended in elation. Papua New Guinea ultimately qualified when it mattered, and that is the hope for the rest of the tournament. Gregory Avira, PNG TV Live.
And that's the PNG TV Live News Bulletin. From myself and the news team, good night.